Hi, it's Deborah Nell and I'm here with Marussia for another jam session. And today we're talking foreign investment. If I'm a foreigner and I want to buy one of these beautiful luxury homes that LuxLiv offers, is it a possibility?
Absolutely, yes. The good news is you can buy in South Africa if you're a foreigner. We often get asked this question, and a lot of foreigners do buy in South Africa. So there is no restriction. As long as you have the money or you have the means to get the money, you are free to buy in South Africa. But of course, there are a few things to consider in terms of your taxes and your costs that we can talk about.
And is it possible to get a loan from a South African bank in order to buy the property?
Yes, but of course it is dependent on the circumstances. So a foreigner can get a loan. They call it a mortgage if you are from the US or various countries, bank loan, we call it a bond. You can apply for one. It will depend on your income, so the banks will review your application on your personal merit. And what my experience is that usually you're looking at about 50% deposit that you have to put down in order to get a loan. So it is not straightforward and there is no right and wrong answer, but it has been done, especially if you happen to have a work permit for South Africa or you happen to be an investor who has already bought other properties and has other sources of income that are provable. It will come down to the bank to review your application, which is why it is so important also to use the right bond originator to assist you with that. But prepare to pay anything between 50 and 30% deposit, and of course all the transfer costs that go with it.
As a foreign investor, I might not know about some of the costs that are incurred in South Africa, like the rates and the taxes and the levies and the insurance. What are they looking at?
Well, you already know more than most foreigners that haven't bought in South Africa yet. There is such a thing as rates and taxes, first of all. And this is basically the tax that you pay to the South African government to own a property. And that varies drastically from property to property, dependent on the size, the location, and various other factors that the local municipality would be taking into account to value your property and to allocate a certain rate amount to your property. So it depends where it is, depends how big it is, depends what the market valuation of this property is. Rates and taxes in South Africa are paid monthly, and there's also an additional cost over and above the tax element. That would be a sewerage element that is for using really your toilet, and there is also a refuse element, and it can be called different things on different statements, but you will be paying for refuse, you will be paying for sewerage and the rates and taxes, and sometimes there's a few extra elements that will come onto your municipal bill, which is over and above your levy bill. A levy is usually an amount that is calculated and decided upon by the homeowners association of a specific complex or estate or security environment. So properties in South Africa can be freestanding, completely independent of each other, in which case you'll be paying rates and taxes. But if the property and the owner decided to belong to some form of a homeowners association organization that can be formal or slightly informal, in order to, let's say, protect it, to add additional security, to maintain the roads and to maintain the gardens, then a levy amount can be decided by that homeowners association, and then that levy amount is usually also charged monthly. And then, of course, it can go into special levy where the whole association decides maybe they want to paint the whole complex for a specific year to raise additional money for that, and so on. So you need to be aware of that amount as well. Yeah.
What about other hidden costs like insurance and things like maybe garden services or pool services?
So absolutely, there are certain costs to consider. And in terms of insurance, if you are taking a home loan, you absolutely have to have insurance. It will be one of the requirements to cover the building that you are in. But there is also some notes to remember. If you buy sectional, the so-called sectional title, which would be your apartments or townhouses, there is also a homeowner's insurance that will cover the buildings up to a certain extent. That will also be built into your levy amount. And it is in general advisable to have insurance in your property. Although we don't really have hurricanes in South Africa so much, but you know, you can have very strong hailstorms sometimes, so you do want to cover your property, whether you have a home loan or not. Garden and pool service, highly advisable. You'll be amazed how quickly a pool can turn from blue to green, literally within one thunderstorm. And I certainly don't know how to maintain a pool, so I would advise you to take on garden and pool service as well. And other than that, being a foreigner, maybe also consider having a manager, a property manager, to look after your property while you're out of the country.
What about if I don't want to live there, but I actually want to do it as an investment and rent out or lease the property to somebody else? I'm far away. How can I make sure that I do that safely, protecting myself from all the things that could go wrong when you have somebody renting your property?
So like with every country, I'm sure if you don't live in the country, a lot of things can go wrong if you're not constantly monitoring your biggest asset, and property is probably going to be one of your biggest assets. So highly recommended to get a property manager. And my advice would be to scrutinize the market and also to familiarize yourself with what are the requirements for someone to manage your property in a professional and legal way. So please don't go on Facebook and say, anyone want to manage my property. Please don't do that. We have, as an experienced company, over the many years we've managed properties, we have seen some really scary stories where a person would trust someone because they're just likable and appear trustworthy, but that person is not a professional property practitioner. They're not experienced. Maybe they started with the best intentions, but things go downhill very fast. So you have to make sure that you have not only an experienced property practitioner, but also one that is registered with the authorities and is authorized to practice their craft, because that also comes with the so-called Fidelity Fund certificate, which does cover you in the event something going wrong. You as the consumer can then claim for damages, which you cannot do if you're not using a property practitioner who is registered and has that Fidelity Fund certificate.
And LuxLiv has all of those things in place.
Of course.
So if I choose you now as the person that's going to manage my property, could you also find me a tenant and screen them and make sure that they're safe? Is that part of your offering?
It is, yes, and we actually have a very strong department looking after properties, because we do find a lot of our owners and investors are either foreigners or they're people, maybe they're South Africans, but they're based overseas. So probably our most long-standing client is someone that owns a property in South Africa. We have rented for the last 17 years, and he literally comes and sees it maybe once every 5 years, and the property is still standing. We've just recently painted it, so yes, we can do that for you. Yeah.
What about if I've completed with my investment and now I would like to withdraw? So I'd like to sell the property, but I'm really far away now, and now I have this property here in Pretoria and I need to sell it. Is it a simple process if I'm so far away?
So it is reasonably simple if you have the right property practitioner to assist you whilst you're far away. But on the legal side, and specifically on the tax side, as a foreigner, you do need to consult with your tax consultant, that we highly recommend that you have, because up to a certain amount, when you resell a property, there is a withholding tax that gets kept before you get all the money released to you, in order for SARS to establish, is there some additional tax that you need to pay in terms of capital gains and so on. I don't want to go into details because I'm not a registered tax practitioner. Just to me, it's important that you note that when you sell, yes, you can sell, but all your money will not be released to you until all the taxes are taken into consideration.
Okay, having said all of this now, I'm a foreigner, I'm looking to invest in Pretoria, South Africa. Is it a good idea?
Absolutely. In fact, in the last couple of, I would say in the last 6 months, we are seeing an increase in foreign investment in South Africa. It is exciting because we are already a nation of so many cultures. So it is really great to see that people are recognizing the value in South Africa, the beautiful weather, although it's a little bit overcast today, and they're recognizing the quality of property here. So yes, it is a good idea.
And the quality of life too.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you. You've really answered all the questions. And I hope any foreigners out there are now clear on what to do. Call Marussia at LuxLiv and come and invest in this beautiful country of ours.